Hello, everybody. Welcome to Royce Airs episode 28. We are going to be with me, you, and everyone else who's in the feed with us today. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody. I hope that you're enjoying the beautiful rainy day that we're having here in Central Florida. I know that there's people all over the United States, all over the world who comes in and tunes in to watch our show. So for that, I appreciate you all. Want to just thank you for your continued support with that. And we're going to kind of change gears up a little bit today. Normally, we have a big focus on just having a nice open discussion about the vegan lifestyle, which I find important, and I hope that you do too. But there's also a lot of other things that are going on as well too that could use our attention. So today we're going to talk about having an open discussion about religion, more so Christianity in the future that it holds with us here in the United States. Why did we pick Christianity, and why did we pick the United States in particular? Well, Christianity was supposedly built on the foundations, the principles of the Judeo-Christian Bible. So we want to analyze from that perspective things that we've been taught since we were born and just kind of analyze them and look at them critically. But before we do all of that, let's look at the word of the day today, which was appropriately picked as zealot. Zealot is nothing more than a person who is fanatically and uncompromisably in pursuit of their religious or political ideals. So you can say that some pastors may be too much of a zealot to teach, preach effectively. I'm not really so good with the sentences of the day, but you might have a better one. So please remember that this is an interactive chat. This is a very interactive show, and I want to get involved with you. I want you to get involved with me. I have my cute little handy-dandy iPad right here. I'm going to have to stop saying iPad, giving them that free advertisement. Not like they really need it anyways. They're pretty awesome. But it's an open chat, so please feel free to chime in when you can, and let's just have that open discussion. Before we actually get into the discussion as well, there was a funny quote from a status, Miss Amari Denise Spigner. I'm going to have to use your status. That was a really good status. I'm sorry if it didn't leave a little like or a heart reaction. I normally try to whenever I see your things because I think they're pretty awesome. You're a pretty cool person. Kind of. No. You're a good lady. The status went, are you like full vegan though? Because some vegans still eat fish. She gave a blank stare. Yeah, just to kind of clarify, if anybody has any comments, questions, concerns, vegans don't eat animal or animal products. So if you do, you're just not a vegan. You can be a pescatarian, which is cool. And I would even bend the rules in this case. Whenever we had Michael Lewis on the show, and he, while he's here, he eats strictly vegan. Like, there's no deviations from that. But whenever he's in Finland, or, anywhere that is literally completely surrounded by water, and there's not much land of anything to, like, grow vegetation, that everybody there, you just eat fish. All right. Okay. Would I want to personally live there? Because I can't be a vegan, I wouldn't want to actually be there for too long, seeing as they don't have options for me. I would just kind of say, well, this might not be the spot for me. But if you do find yourself in a nice, beautiful spot like that, then to each his own. But yeah, Amari, I understand that blank stare. So, want to thank everybody for chiming in. I want to make sure that my chat is actually working properly too. So if you can hear me, if you can see me, everything's well, please just give like a little hand wave or a thumbs up or say, Royce, you are so cool. So that way we can get started with this discussion today. If you have any friends who you've wanted to always have this conversation with, please invite them over. This is a very perfect time to do so. Religion, politics, even, money, some of those topics can be very difficult to have with people, especially if you knew someone before your views may have grown or evolved or just changed in some way. It can be really awkward to say, oh, I don't feel that same way anymore. So this is just an open, beautiful place that we can talk about it. I see we got some thumbs up. We got 3 thumbs up in a row. So yes, glad to have you all here with us. I just want to start off by talking a little bit about my religious background. I was born in good old Tallahassee, Florida, north 250 miles here of our Orlando area. Why is it still the capital? No one knows. I grew up in a school that was a Baptist school, Maranatha Christian School. I loved my time there. I was there my whole childhood, from 3 years old until I graduated at 17. And I didn't attend church there on Sundays, but I would go on Wednesday nights. And I would attend church at a different church, more of kind of the hood church. It was Trinity United Presbyterian Church. And, so the Presbyterians and Maranatha Christian School, it was a Baptist school, Baptist church, Baptist school. We have 2 different denominations, but in the same religion. So both of them had the Christian foundation, the very general Judeo-Christianity sector. I also went to church sometimes with my uncle. Sometimes. He was Greek Orthodox, so theirs was just a little bit different, but I was still really interested to hear the different perspective on Christianity, because I thought that I was doing my due diligence to know that I wanted to serve the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So, I have a pretty good foundation when it comes to knowing a lot about the different denominations in church. And even whenever I finished college, or once I finished high school, when I was in college, I still chose to go to church, not necessarily at my high school anymore, but I had different friends who would invite me out to Church of Christ, went to some different non-denomination churches. That's a tongue twister. I would entertain different Jehovah's Witnesses as they'd come and knock on the door, and I would go to the Kingdom Hall with them. And the stories only differed slightly, or so I thought. It was really interesting. One of the churches that I was attending for a while, they would bring in foreign exchange students. And those students would talk about some of the differences in some of the stories that we have here that were a little bit different there. In particularly, the story of Jonah and the whale. For some of you who are familiar with the story, you know about, familiar here with the American version of Jonah and the whale, that Jonah, he was sent to go to Nineveh. He did not go to Nineveh. He decided that he wanted to do the people of Nineveh were bad. They couldn't be saved. He didn't want to go. So he disobeyed God and went elsewhere. From doing so, God, he was on the boat. A bad storm started happening. Fish swallowed him whole, spit him out in Nineveh 3 days later. Moral of the story, obey God. But the foreign exchange students had a totally different story about Jonah, although they had the same Bible that we did, or so we thought. Their story went completely left field. They were from Uganda, so I didn't take them as seriously. I said, no, maybe you're just not really subscribed. You don't have the right Bible, or you all aren't reading. I try to make up excuses as to why the story was not the same. Fast forward, same church. I think it was about that was at the beginning of the summer. The end of the summer, another foreign exchange student comes who also happens to be from Uganda, but the two folks from Uganda, they didn't actually know each other. So it was really cool that, it was like, oh, wow, coincidence. God must have set this up to where you all met here conveniently at this church. Never met in Uganda, but now, you all met here in America, in the States. And they also had that same wrong story, or at least I thought it was the wrong story because it wasn't the same Jonah and the whale story that I grew up with that they'd had. And so once that happened, a lot of us at the church, we still kind of just said, oh, no, it's fine. It's maybe just lost in translation, lost in text. But it did kind of open my eyes like, what is going on? So if you had any experiences with anything like that, I'd love to hear it. I'm going to come over here and check on the comments because my iPad went away. Let's see. But the question that I'm asking, the question that I'm posing is, does religion, Christianity more so, have room in future America as we continue to progress and evolve? Are these ideals of a Christian society going to hold us back, or can we continue to still grow and still hold on to them? Before I actually go, I guess you might be able to gauge where I'm coming from. I want to know what you all think. So we're going to turn over to the comments now once we bring this back on up and see what you all have to say to Mr. Royce. Let's see. All right. Oh, hello, Mr. Kai. Glad you're here with us. Vens, glad to have you here as well with us. Vens, you're a cool guy. Just want to let you know. Amari, what's the difference between a church and a cult? Amari Denise Spigner, that is a really good question. Personally, there's the difference between the cult and the church. The church is the established religion of, hey, we are this. A cult is anything outside of that. They also hold the same different ideals, but now people label people as a cult the same way people get labeled as pagans. You're a pagan, and they'll use that as a bad connotation. They're going to, it's almost to kind of put it down because it is different from the norm. So realistically, when you look at, a cult and a church, it's not really much of a difference. My sister went to, just to kind of talk about Maranatha. The year I graduated, 2010, was the same year that they shut down. I have a younger sister, 1 year, 8 months younger than I am, so she was 2 grades behind. She also started going to Maranatha when she was born. From real little, 4 years old she started, and 10th grade she didn't get to finish her last 2 years at Maranatha, so she went to a new Christian school. Our mother wanted to keep us in a Christian school, but this school was what you would call a cult. They had maximum of like 30 students. Everybody they had different views about Christianity just there, aside from the different views that even other denominations had. So it starts to get a little hairy, but really there's no difference between a cult and the church. Vens, the difference between a religion and a cult is in the religion the leader has been dead for a long time. Vens, that sounds like an attack, man, but I agree. I definitely agree with you. And that's one, there's like this cult for Beyonce. I don't know if you all have heard about it. If you haven't, go research it. It's pretty interesting. It's the Church of Bayism, where people literally worship Beyonce as a deity. When I first heard about this, I was still Christian. So it blew my mind that people would worship someone. It was blasphemy. Like, why are you doing that? That's not right. Fast forward now, I appreciate and I actually give more credit to those folks for doing that, for worshiping Beyonce, because at least they can see Beyonce, at least they can talk to her, and at least she can, say things back to them. So, yeah. Moving on. Renee, sounds like Christianity to you. Definitely sounds like Christianity to me as well. For everybody who just joined us, welcome. I'm glad you all are here as well. We're just having a nice big open discussion about whether or not Christianity should be can be still in our cultural society as we continue to grow and progress. I wanted to kind of steer away from just the vegan topic because we already know, for most of us who have done any type of research at all when it comes to climate change, the environment, animal agriculture, that the vegan lifestyle will be one of those proponents to help us move into a more utopian society, something just more progressive, more growing. That's going to be there. Ask Bill Nye or even Neil deGrasse Tyson. Both of them have said that, a plant-based lifestyle is the future. So don't take it from me. Take it from the scientists that you learn all the cool stuff from. Amari says, low-key makes more sense to worship someone tangible. Yes, that's it. Exactly what I was saying. It makes more sense to me because at least I don't have to pretend. Okay? A lot of us will attribute faith to the evidence that we have for something to work. Point an example. When people pray before they take a test. I prayed that I do well on the test. That prayer request is not going to be what determines whether you pass or fail. What's going to determine that is your knowledge of the material on that test. Did you study hard for that test? Okay? I have had tests, thinking back, while I was at school, that I would pray for and I would pass and I would say thank you God, and then I would also fail them and I would assume that maybe my prayer wasn't answered or I knew that I didn't study hard enough. But if I passed, and I gave him the glory and I gave him the faith. Now I don't have a problem with people guessing as to whether or not that there is a higher power out there. That's fine, because we're humans, we're here on this plane, so we only get so much information. Kind of like the Wizard of Oz, we don't get to see the man behind the camera. A lot of us will have different experiences that may feel like, wow, that we were right there with, the man behind the curtain, but I believe that that's cut off for a reason. All we can do is speculate. We can have different experiences that might feel like it, but you're not going to get there and come back fully. Mr. Doug, I'm glad you're here with us. Matthew, government should be religion free. That might be the conclusion there, because I had an argument. Not an argument, it's more of just kind of the regular comment back and forth on Facebook. It didn't get too heated, which was awesome. So in one of the groups that I'm in, and it was that they believe that the government is secular in itself, but I don't feel as though it is. Seeing as a lot of these churches and a lot of different religious establishments don't have to pay taxes on the money that they work for and earn, because at the end of the day, that is their job. So that's already kind of that breach. And also in our Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the United. Okay, we won't go there right now. I have it memorized. It might have been in just a little while. I pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States. Okay, I'm going to stop before I embarrass myself on the air. But one nation under God, it's right there. It's literally right there. So, yes, I do believe that it would be nice for the folks who are wanting to lead us into that more prosperous, into that honestly more utopian society, that they kind of leave their religious views elsewhere. That's usually whenever I got attacked about, well, your vegan lifestyle is nothing more than a religion as well. So, the young man, he commented and said that if I became a religious figure, a political figure, would I use my vegan lifestyle to help direct my political journey? Which, yes, I would, because it's based off facts, okay? It's the same thing is when someone says, well, we should go to war because A, B, and C. Because there might be some kind of goal or something that we are trying to obtain, something that we are trying to fix. Okay? That's what the whole vegan lifestyle is about. The religious lifestyle is not that way. Or, Christianity in particular. It's about you going to heaven afterwards and being with your, Lord and Savior, which is good. But it really only affects you. Whether or not I go to heaven or not, in your belief, it's not going to affect you. But you, continuing to contribute to factory farm and the massive pollution and extreme waste of energy doesn't just affect me, it affects everyone else around you, human and non-human. So, Doug Hefner, Jesus eats meat. So be like Jesus. I would challenge you to be greater than Jesus. If Jesus ate meat, then, you have to remember too, Doug, that was over 2,000 years ago. So now we have lots of different foods that are readily available for us. There's no reason I don't have to kill to have dinner anymore. And if somebody is still, that's a really interesting point too that you bring up though, Doug, because yesterday we talked about that if somebody eats meat because their ancestors ate meat, then that person should also live in a cave and not be watching things on Facebook or YouTube because there's no Wi-Fi back then. So why don't we just do everything like we did in the past, like people lived in the past? But we know that we have access to higher learning, better technology, so we don't have to stay in the past because somebody over 2,000 years ago ate what was essential to their survival. And that's something that I like to really stress on, that is, it's essential to survival, not necessarily to thrive and have the best life. Eating meat should be the last resort. Wow, there is no vegetation here for me, so I can't get the proper minerals and nutrients to live and sustain life. Well, now I guess I have to take life from another. That would be the only time that's like, all right, if that's what you have to do, because somehow vegans keep on getting stranded on these remote island, deserted island things. I eat to see you in heaven, Royce. I want to see you in heaven. I would like to see you in heaven as well, Doug. So what I like to do is create heaven here on earth while we're all here right now. While we can make that conscious decision to kill and be compassionate and love, which direction are we going to go? Okay. Back in the day, yes, it was very, it may have been very essential to hunt and kill depending on where in the world you actually lived. Just like my friend Michael Lewis. He often visits Finland, and there's not much room for vegetation to grow. So they eat a lot of fish because that is the food that's available. It's not even necessarily, lots of beef and chicken. It's the fish because they're, just surrounded by the water. So for them, yes, that is essential for their survival. That's kind of the world they're going to be living in. But we can create heaven right here in Orlando on a good plant-based organic lifestyle. tell Rich that I said hi as well. Mr. Rich, that's a handsome guy. Very, very handsome guy. But do you see religion being necessary for the United States to continue to thrive and survive? Right now, it seems like we're kind of 50-50 with people who are chiming in. I'm really curious. I would have to go on the lines and say that I agree most with Matthew Boutwell, that it should not be in the government. That the government should really only lead and make decisions based off hardcore facts, not things that we're told because. Okay? Mr. Doug also says, I would love to grow some tacos. Can you get me some seeds? That's hilarious. Yes, we can. I have tacos all the time, depending on where you want to go. If you want to go to Taco Bell, you can say, hey, I don't want the beef. I would, not like the flesh. Please give me beans. They have black beans, refried beans that they can put in there as your protein. They can take out the cow pus, the cheese, and replace it with pico de gallo, a nice little tomato, basil mix, all that good fun stuff. So yes, you can easily grow your own tacos. People use jackfruit in tacos. If you've ever had that, that is, think of it as the closest thing to pulled pork, but just better because no one had to die for it. It's much healthier for you, no cholesterol. So yes, we can indeed grow tacos or burgers or pizza, whatever it is that you would like to have. Anything that you feel as though you want to miss. And I know the most popular one that people say is, well, until you can replicate steak. Please remember that steak or fish or any of your meat, any of the animals that you eat, it's all just texture and not necessarily taste. Do you know where that taste comes from? The taste comes from the seasoning that you get, okay? When you season the food, that's when it's like, wow, this is really, really yummy. And those seasons come from plants. So just always keep that in mind whenever you're eating any food. I promise you, Doug, it's a lot easier. And for anybody who might be having problems really grasping why vegans are vegans. It's all about just information and getting that proper education, because we've been educated to believe that one cannot live off of a plant-based lifestyle. And if that's the case, then I must be supernatural, because I've been doing this now for 2.5 years and it's been way better than my earlier journey. But back to the topic at hand. For all the viewers, we have everybody that just jumped in. We got quite a bit of people in here now, so I'm loving that. We're just asking, should religion, Christianity more so, be in the future of the United States? Right now, we have a majority of the people saying no, and there are still some that are fighting for it. I'm very open to hear both sides. I like to learn. I like to understand why people believe what they believe. So that would be my question to you, Doug. If you are still in here with us, why do you believe what you believe? If you can comment it in here, then I'll be more than happy to read it out loud. Another viewer says, Christianity is super fear-based, not the best for managing a country. Very true. That's, if you boil it down, why do people love God? A lot of them, the automated response would be because he's my Lord and Savior. He created everything. He created you and me to love him, and so on and so forth. But did he really? Did he really? Because it sounds more of like a threat, that if I don't subscribe, that if I don't, do as you say, then I'm going to be casted and burned and tortured forever and ever and ever. That's not, that under any circumstances, a message of love. A message of love would actually be, hey, I enjoy the beach and the sunshine and going out, breathing, and loving my family, loving my life. Oh, and you as another person, as another life, as another being also likes to do that. So I'm not going to hurt you. Oh, and that cat also seems to, love being who they are, and so does this dog, and so does this pig, and so does this chicken, and so does this cow, and so forth, so on. This has been extremely fun for me. Tomorrow, we're going to have our guest back with us as well, so I hope you enjoyed the one-on-one time with us. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Have a good day.